Okay, can everybody hear me clearly at the back? That's good. We often have problems in this demo theatre, but we'll make a start. So in this session, we're going to be looking at creating 3D models. This is very much a developer's viewpoint. So I'm not a graphics artist, but I have been playing around and creating models like the one that we can see in front of us here. And these models are viewed, well, from my point of view, they're viewed inside runtime applications, but you can also import these to visualize them inside the ArcGIS Pro application. Now, these are typically used to represent the location of point geometries, and we use things like Collada or 3D Max, but there's a whole host of other other formats that we support in the Runtime SDK. Now, typically, when you're working with these, you want to change the location of them and alter things like the elevation and the pitch and the roll. So if I just switch over to an application I've got running here, so this is an example application that's using a Collada model in an app that you may have seen over on the runtime stand that I've been working on. So what we've got here is a point represented by a Collada model that we've got here. And as it's sort of going round the Grand Canyon in this case, we're changing the elevation and the pitch and the roll of the aircraft. So in this session, we're going to have a look at how we can actually draw one of these aircraft models. So where do you get hold of these things from? Well, if you want to save yourself a lot of work, then there are some very good websites out there, like TurboSquid or Sketchfab. They've got sort of massive groups of people who make contributions to these websites, but you may not be able to find the right model for you. And in fact, when we were looking at these models, we actually came into legal issues with actually including them in our samples. So this is the reason that we went down the route of creating our own models. There's a number of packages out there that allow you to do this. So this is by no means an exhaustive list, but packages you may want to consider include SketchUp, Blender, Autodesk, AutoCAD, Cheetah 3D. There's plenty of them out there. And in this session, I'm going to be using a package called Blender. It's very commonly used in the gaming industry. In fact, we've got a couple of developers in the Runtime core team who are from the gaming industry, and they influenced me to use this package. It's available to work on Mac, Windows, and Linux. It's open source software. It's pretty powerful. You can extend it by writing Python scripts for automatically drawing models. And in fact, in this demonstration, I'm really only touching the surface of this package, because you can create whole movies with this thing. But we're going to be focusing on creating models. Now, it's got what I would describe as a very efficient user interface, which I guess is my polite way of saying it's quite difficult to use when you first start using it. You're going to have a very steep learning curve to become familiar with this. But the way I like to think about this is kind of an analogy where, as a developer, a long time ago, you may have used the VI editor, Vi, and when you first started using this, all you did was destroy your text documents. Well, actually, once you got familiar with this, you can become extremely productive, probably far more productive than you can do in a modern IDE. I'm there, so you'll soon get used to it. So I'll take you through the high-level steps for drawing a model, and I think if you haven't done this before, then really try something simple. I didn't follow that advice to start with, and I got myself into a whole world of trouble. Now, although the aircraft drawing that I've got here does look quite complicated, from a modelling point of view, this is actually fairly straightforward, because we've got fairly uniform cross-sections in this that I can extrude out in order to draw this aircraft. So the key things to have in any drawings that you're working with, you need to be able to see it from different elevations. Possibly most importantly, you do need cross-sections as well that you can trace around to extrude out. And then it's a case of, well, opening up Blender and spending, and I don't exaggerate, many hours tracing and extruding and scaling and adding textures to create a pleasing model. So in the next 20 or so minutes, I'm going to attempt to do that. So we'll have to switch over to Blender. Oh, it's all gone. Thought that was going to be a very bad demonstration then. Okay, so I'm in Blender now, and the first things I've done here is to add in the scale models the scale drawings I have for the aircraft. So I've actually changed the viewpoint of my diagram here, so that I'm looking at the model that I've yet to draw from the top. And I've added in a background image. So this is the background image from the drawing that we showed earlier on the slide. And you'll notice that I've positioned the drawing so that it's centered on the fixed point of the aircraft, the anchor point. And you need to sort of, when you add these things in, just play around with making it so that it's centered on the center point of the anchor point of the model. Now I've set this drawing so that it's only visible from when I'm looking at the model from the top. Now I've added in another diagram here, exactly the same one. So if I move now my camera, so I'm looking at the model from the left-hand side, I've actually brought in the same drawing, but looking at this from the side view, I've arranged that so the anchor point is on the center of the drawing again. So whenever I look at this, I can be sort of maneuvering things so that they're perfectly lined up with the scale drawing that I'm working on. So I'm going to move back to the top elevation, and what I've started to do here is to draw a polygon which is representing the DD cross section of the aircraft that I'm wanting to draw here. Now, it's obviously, you appreciate this does take a long time. I don't want you to sit here watching me tediously drawing around the outside of these things. So I've made a start at this, and I'm just going to finish this off by selecting the vertices, and I'm just going to sort of move those in, just to finish off the cross-section of the wing. And do this very, very crudely. You probably want to spend quite a lot of time over this. Okay, so we've now got the cross-section of a wing. So using the tool, I'm going to be using shortcuts in this application. So I'm going to press the B button in order to do a box selection to select all of the vertices of the cross section of the wing. And obviously the cross section of the wing at the moment is in the wrong place. So I need to bring it up so it's actually aligned with the wing section. So I'm just going to drag that up so that it's lined with the DD section of the wing. And because the drawing is orientated in the other direction, you'll notice that the cross section of the wing is actually it's not correct for the wing. So I actually need to take these vertices and rotate them. So using the shortcut, I've got the section highlighted. I'm going to press R to rotate. I'm going to rotate that on the Y-axis by -90 degrees. I'm just going to accept that. So using the middle mouse button now, this is a very unconventional UI, I'm just going to sort of tip the model up so that you can see that I'm actually starting to draw the cross-section of the aircraft wing here. I'm going to change the view now so that I'm looking at the left-hand side of the aircraft, and you can see actually it's lined up perfectly with the side of the aircraft. But I might have to move that round just so that I'm lining it up with the other side of the drawing. And then I'm going to move back to my top view, and I'm going to start extruding this out to build up the model. So I'm going to press E, which does a freehand extrusion, and this is sort of stretching it out. So I'm just going to stretch it out a little bit to the middle of the wing section there. That's not quite big enough. So I'm going to press the S button now and scale that up so that it sort of fits the edge of the wing drawing. And I'm going to extrude it out, and I'm going to cheat. I'm going to just extrude it out right to the middle of the aircraft here, and accept that. And just using my middle mouse button again, you can see that we're starting to build up a section of wing there. Okay, so I just want to work on the other end of the wing now. So I'm going to just select one of the vertices and press B and do a box selection. So that I've selected the vertices at the other end of the wing. And if I just change it so that I'm viewing the model from the top again, I'm going to follow that sort of extrude and scale process again to bring it out in the other direction. So I'm going to just drag it out so it's roughly in the middle. Now it's too big, so I'm going to scale it down just to fit the drawing. Extrude out, scale it down. Oops, I've done that wrong. Control Z is a good thing here if you want to be able to step back. Extrude it out again. I'll do this a couple of more times just to sort of finish the wingtip off. And I'll scale that down one last time. We've got a wing. That's brilliant. But an airplane needs two wings, so I guess I'm going to have to draw another one, which I could do. I could sit here extruding and scaling it out, but this tool's pretty powerful actually. So what I'm going to do now is to make use of a modifier. So obviously the place you'd look for a modifier is in this very nice to use user interface, this spanner here, and I'm going to add a modifier. And there's a whole host of these, most of which I don't actually understand, but we're going to add in a mirror in this case. And you can set the mirror so that it works on different axes, or all of the axes. But in this case, I just wanted to do it on the Z-axis. So straight away, I've got my second wing. That's brilliant. This is coming together quite nicely. Now, one thing I would say is that there is an apply button here. So what that would do is it would actually apply the vertices so they're all planted there in place. But don't do that. Leave it so that the mirror modifier is in place, because if I wanted to make a modification to the wing, I want it to be happening on both wings. I don't want to sort of apply it and then have to sort of independently change both the wings. So don't press apply. So I'm going to move my mouse button away from that. Okay, so we're making some progress with wings. What about a bit of fuselage? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw now a circle around the BB section of the aircraft. So all I need to do is add, and I'm going to create myself a circle, and just sort of dragging these axes here, I can centre that on the cross-section, BB cross-section of the aircraft. So I'm going to press the S button now, and I'm just going to scale that down so that it's roughly correct for the bit of the fuselage that I'm drawing. Now you'll notice here that I've got a complete section, and I could start extruding that out, but that wouldn't necessarily be a good idea because I've got a mirror going on here, so I only want to be drawing half of the aeroplane. So if I just zoom in on this, I just need to sort of prune this down a little bit. So if I just select one of the vertices and press B to do a box select, I then need to remove the vertices that I don't want. So if I just press X and remove those vertices, I've now just got half a fuselage. So if I just select that again, if I just zoom out, I can then bring that in and align it to the centre of the drawing. And then we can start extruding that out again. Now, the thing I've forgotten to do is rotate this. So I need to press R, rotate on the X-axis by 90 degrees. And that has got the section of the fuselage in place. So I can now move that over to the correct place in the left-hand side of the aircraft. So I'm just going to move that and align it so it's in the BB cross-section area. And now I've got that in place. It's just a case of pressing E. I'm going to extrude that out a little bit. I don't need to scale it this time, so I'm going to extrude it out again, and I'll bring it along the length of the fuselage here, and scale that down. and we can see that we're starting to get the fuselage of an aircraft starting to appear here. You can see I just need to, because I've scaled that, I need to sort of like bring it back in so that it's joined together. It's basically the operation that you need to follow to sort of build up the aircraft. I'm just going to move over to one that I've been working on separately. So I've in this diagram here, I've been extruding the model out towards the front, and I've taken it all the way to the back, and I've actually been using the different parts of the tail plane and then sort of drawing around those and extruding those out just a little bit, so that I've got the tail plane. So that's starting to come together quite nicely. The bulk of the aircraft won't take you long to draw. It's the small things like the wheels and the bits, the axle for the wheels, and cutting a hole in the fuselage. I'm not going to do that because obviously that's going to take you a very long time. So I'll just move over to show you the finished article that I've obviously put many more hours worth of effort into, and I've sort of gone into, I've drawn a seat, and I've drawn sort of a shield here. And I've actually drawn some concentric lines here and extruded those out a little bit, just to give an effect of a propeller whizzing round. And as you can see, I've drawn the wheels. So if you were to just take the aircraft at this point and export it out into a Collada file, it'd be a little bit boring. It would just be a grey aircraft. But obviously you want to be able to give these things some colour. So the technique you use to shade these things is to create yourself a bitmap image, and you can see the bitmap image at the bottom of the screen here. And the theory you need to work with here is you need to sort of like draw seams around the sections of the aircraft that you basically want to be able to unravel it, so that you can actually position bits of the aircraft over the bitmap in order to be able to get the shading correct on it. So you can see here, if I select a section of the wing here and just sort of show you the appropriate bit in the texture, you can see here how I'm actually positioning the bits of the model so that I've got a little bit of an Esri logo appearing on here. Probably easier for me to explain this by looking at another model that I created. So this is a model that was created for the plenary. So those of you who may remember, Adrian was showing just an Android application with terrifying animals that you might find in Yosemite. Well, this is one of the pins that I created, and what I was doing here was to shade it. I drew a seam, and you can see the seam here going right down the outside of the model. And then I unwrapped it and moved all the pieces of the geometry, so all the planes, over on the blue section here. Yeah, seems to have a bit of a problem here. It's gone black and white, but that should be coloured blue here. And then I unwrapped the top part of it, and then just positioned the picture over Ewan, so that we could have a push pin representing Ewan up on some sort of high mountain, climbing in some alarming place. So that's the process of actually creating the models. What you need to do now is to export that out into a model symbol that you can actually bring into your runtime application. So that is just a case of going File and, I can't guide it, File and Export, and Runtime supports all of these models, but I've had most success with Collada, so I'd suggest you use those going forward. And specify a name and export it. Except that wouldn't work. What would you get? Well, you'd only get half an aeroplane because I've only drawn half of it. So there are some options in the export menu that you need to make sure that you're ticking. So you need to make sure you're ticking the modifier. So remember, I've got a mirror modifier here because I want both sides of my aeroplane. I want an aeroplane with two wings because that's going to be more convincing to my simulation. And the other thing I need to do is just, it won't apply the textures by default. So you just need to go and tick these options here, and then you'll get a model which has got both sides to it, and it's also got the textures applied to it as well. So when you deploy your model, you need to make sure you've got the DAE file, but alongside that, you also need to make sure you've got your texture bitmap that will be used to draw the colours on the side of the model. So that's, in a nutshell, very, very quickly, how you go about creating a model. So this session is recorded, so you can watch it again. And also, there's some very good YouTube resources available online, which take you through the process that I've gone through in far more detail. So I do hope that has inspired you to create your own models. As I say, the application is challenging to use to start with, but once you get used to sort of the basic extrusion and scaling, you can actually build things up very quickly. So, thank you. Any questions? Hey. It was because Phil Cooper King, who I work with, knows how to use this tool, so he was able to guide me through the process of using this. So in my case, it was just a choice because I had somebody who could guide me through the process of using this. So the other reason you might want to use Blender is that it's free, and some of the other packages you actually have to pay for. So that obviously might sway your choice. But yeah, SketchUp is another package that is commonly used. Any more questions? Or yeah, they do. So the DAE format is a very commonly used one, and it's a standard. It's an open specification that will be used by most of the other modelling applications. So 3D Max is another example, and everyone has to stick to that specification. Now, I have had problems where I've downloaded models from some of the websites where they must have used a tool that maybe didn't quite stick to the standard, and the library that we're using in Runtime didn't actually read the file. But certainly using Blender, I've never managed to create anything I can't read in Runtime. So yeah, that's just where I've been successful here. Okay, well, if any more questions, come and have a chat with me afterwards. But thank you very much.